Welcome back, guys. Today I'm going to be showing you how I like to transplant a persimmon tree that's pretty much outgrown its container, and I want to remove its existing potted soil that came with the tree, and I'm going to put it in my own mixture, and also we're going to be transplanting it into a bigger container from a 15-gallon pot to the 28.5-gallon big plastic pot where it's going to be living for the next 2, possibly even 3 years. This fruit tree is already fruiting. There's little fruits on it. Already had on harvest last year, and but it came with huge, big gravel instead of a nice, loose, draining soil. I don't like to use it. First of all, it's extremely heavy. If I take a guess, I mean, this has to be at least 100 pounds, which is not cool. So what I'm going to be doing is, unfortunately, removing a lot of this existing soil from here with all that gravel that's very, very, very heavy, and reorganizing the soil in with the roots in this new bigger container. The tree is going to be going through some shock, but we're going to be adding some Super Thrive, which will help eliminate that transplant shock over the next week. I'll be using that product. I'm not affiliated with that product, but it's just a product that I like to use to help the tree out, to get some strength. And it's going to get messy, very heavy, and you're going to see the tree wilt down over the next 2-3 days. But then once it starts getting established, you'll see that it's going to perk right back up, and it's going to love its new home much better than this home right here. Let's get to it. First off, we have to make sure we hit the side of the pot all around. This way it loosens up the root ball from the container. You could use your hands or a mallet or a stick or a piece of pipe, a rock, whatever you like. Then we are going to fill our big tote with some of our sand mixture with soil, which I already prepared. I like to use a mixture of native soil that's, in this case, I have horrible clay soil, so I only use about 5, maybe 10% of that soil. But I mix it in with 40% of washed construction sand, and the other mixture will be raised bed garden soil. Okay, I like to buy the 3 cubic feet bags from Home Depot or Lowe's. No brand in particular, just whatever even is on sale. And sometimes I mix other stuff in it, but those are the main 2 components: the sand, the construction washed sand, and the raised garden bed soil. It's still heavy enough that the pot does not just tumble over with a little bit of wind, especially when the tree gets bigger, but it's well drained soil, and it's very fine. It feels good, it feels soft, it smells great. You could also amend it prior to using it, meaning putting some granular fertilizers in there, whatever you're trying to pot, and it's a great mixture. I like to use a cement mixer when I mix a lot of soil all at once. Otherwise, if you're using if you need to transplant just one tree, a wheelbarrow does fine. But again, when you're doing 10 of these, save your back, save your muscles, save your energy, your neck, and use a cement mixer. It makes the job way faster, easier, and you have all your energy to focus on actually transplanting carefully versus mixing soil for 2 hours, which is a pain in the neck. Let's prepare our bigger new home. I filled it about 1/3, maybe a little bit more, ready to go. So I put a little bit more than usual simply because once I remove this tree from its container, I want to eliminate a lot of that gravel that's in there. And so all this, what is this, about 16 inches of soil, it's really going to turn into maybe 8 inches possibly. So I'm going to need a lot more soil in here up front versus another tree that I liked. I would only put maybe 2-3 inches of soil at the bottom, and then the rest goes all around it. But we're ready to go. At this point, we need to remove the container off of its root ball. This soil is pretty wet. It's best to do it when the soil is dry so all the roots stay in contact with less damage as you're pulling it out, because you have to grab it from the actual stalk. And but we'll be okay. The tree is going to be stressed out. In this case, I'm trying to save this tree from its old nursery, its own home, and we're gonna make good progress over the next couple months with lots of new growth and make it thrive the right way. So we already hit it on the sides. Now we have to remove it. Some people like to cut these, make it easier without damaging the root ball. But in this case, I don't really care. First of all, I like to save my containers for transplanting smaller plants, smaller pots into bigger pots, gradually all the way up from a little 1 gallon to a 5 gallon, a 15 gallon, 20 gallon, 28 gallon, 40 gallon. So there's no really easy way of doing this. You just have to basically put it down, hit it already, and then start pulling. And they'll come, right? So as you could see, this came out like this. This is horrible, horrible. They did a very, very, very poor job at planting this tree. There are not many roots. They're big roots, but not many roots. And they used all heavy gravel. This is extremely poor. Not good at all. They did a very, if I had to rate this, I would rate it a -2. Anybody who transplanted this tree into that pot should be fired. But what are you going to do? All right, let's put it in its new home and take good care of it. Okay, now that we have pretty much filled up our pot, we are 3/4 done. Basically, I still need to put more, but before we put water and settle, we're going to settle this in. So I like to give it a nice little shake, and this helps all the sand fill those voids before we add water. Hold your stem up, and everything just settled in even more. Let's keep filling. Depending on the type of tree you're planting and how big it is, you might want to stake it. Now is the right time to put a stake through the soil and properly strap it every 6 inches, every 12 inches. I'm not going to do it with this tree. These trees really don't need stakes. You might be wondering what this white coat is. It's the same paint diluted 50% with water. It's a acrylic latex white paint, and I mix it 50-50 with water, shake it up, and I paint it just like I do in all my trees, just like I use it as a sunscreen for the avocado trees. I like it. It looks good. It also helps eliminate the bugs that come from the soil, and they come and nibble on the bark. When they taste that paint, they go somewhere else. But if if the paint is not there and they, you know, chew on the bark and they feel that, oh, this is nice and tasty, they climb up and they keep eating away, and of course you get a pest infestation. So this helps with eliminating some of the pests. We are now ready to put water with the Super Thrive in it. I like to use Super Thrive. You could also use vitamin B1. They're both great products. I'm not associated with them again, but in this case I'm going to be using the Super Thrive, and I think it calls out 1 teaspoon per gallon. I use a filtered garden hose water, and so this helps eliminate all the harsh water, the heavy water, the chemicals, the salt deposits from our city tap water. And I mix it up. 2 gallons, I use a half a teaspoon of Super Thrive. We're going to water it in slowly and evenly until it runs out the bottom. So we like to water it, but slowly, not too fast. You don't want to dump 4 gallons on it because it's not really going to absorb properly into all pockets. As we are watering slowly, the soil and sand are compacting even more, compressing. All air bubbles are getting eliminated from the pot. You do not want any air bubbles because the roots don't want to be in the air. They want to be compacted, and not compacted, but closed up with soil and sand. Usually about 4 gallons is all that's needed for a 28.5 gallon pot. When I transplant, I've noticed that watering it slowly, all the soil gets saturated and it's a right amount of water without having too much waste, because of course you're putting vitamins in the water, so you don't want to just run it off. You want to have just enough. As you could see, our new soil is working the right way. It's well drained, even though we already put 3 gallons and a half. The water is still draining freely. It's not puddling up. And on my back side over here, I already see water starting to come out. I have about another half a gallon to go. At this point, what I like to do, even though this tree is going to be extremely stressed, because as you saw, all those roots, every single root separated from the original pot it was in. This tree is going to be extremely stressed out. We are still going to give it a little bit of fertilizer. I like to use the triple 15, and in this case I'm only using a half a dose. Whatever the instructions on the container for the fertilizer recommends per diameter, I'm going to use a half or even a little less, just to simply amend the soil. Notice how I put the fertilizer towards the exterior, towards the edges of the pot, not right here. The reason why is because most fertilizers can burn your trees. This is a delicate fertilizer. It says it will not do it, but I prefer going the original way and avoiding about 4 to 5 inches, 6 inches of fertilizer away from the stem. The truth is, this fertilizer slowly, over a period of 2 months, 3 months, it breaks down slowly and it feeds the entire pot. This type of fertilizer, you want to use it 3 times a year. You are able to go 4 times a year. The months that I prefer doing it are March 1st, June 1st, and September 1st. That's when I like to use triple 15. At this point, we are going to put mulch, and another thing is we are going to create a little barrier around our stalk. This way the mulch will not cover and choke the stalk. You don't want to do that ever. I know a lot of avocado trees, their leaves naturally cover it, but I like to separate at all times simply because you are able to get a fungus or a rot that happens on your stem, on your stalk. So once that trunk gets damaged and fungus and moldy, usually it's very hard to come back and keep that tree alive. I'm going to show you what I like to use, and it's basically a curtain. You know those the vertical blinds? Those vertical blinds I like to use because they're malleable, they don't crack easily, and I could wrap it up in a circle. They come, I believe, in 8-foot sections, and then you cut them down to size for your blinds. You could also use the window ones, which are a lot smaller. I have the 8-foot section ones, and I just wrap it up and put a little piece of, metal or stake to hold it in place. When mulching, I like to use a little bit of leaf mulch at the bottom, and then I put wood chips on top. Wood chips take a lot longer to break down, so it's not ideal. However, this is going to be a temporary home for this tree, maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years. So I'm not worried about the wood chips. Also, when you put simply leaf mulch on top, when there's a little bit of wind, it blows all over your yard, makes a mess, and you're constantly having to refill the mulch. So a little bit of avocado leaf mulch, and break it up if you like. I've actually used weed whackers to put in a big trash can and grind it up so it's really fine, and it actually helps break down faster and is more readily available for all the earthworms that climb into here. What's nice about the wood chips is that after you put your leaf mulch down, the wood chips actually hold the leaves in place, so they are still broken down. Now, every time you fertilize 3 times a year, you remove all the mulch anyways. So once you remove it, you put new leaf mulch down, or you fertilize, then put new leaf mulch, and then the wood chips back on top. This is the vertical blind that I was talking about. This is from my patio that I took apart, the patio door, and instead of throwing them away, I saved them because they're pretty, you could bend them around, and, all right, so you could do a nice diameter. You could go really small without breaking, or you could go really big for big avocado trees. And these are about 4 inches high, 3.5, 4 inches wide. So it's just enough to keep the mulch away from the stalks. You start off small and just keep twisting and turning. And then I use, it's I don't even know what this is, but it's basically a piece of metal folded in half. And place that right there, and there you go. All the wood chips go right back in, and we are all set, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit subscribe and the little alert button for the next videos and the updates. In about 2 months, 3 months, I'll give you an update on this particular tree with almost no leaves, wilted, and pretty much dead. We'll see if we can get this baby to revive and see what kind of success we have with it. Hopefully it's a good one. Take care.